Well, good morning, everybody. Yesterday around 10 o'clock in the morning, I was keeping an eye on this map. It's the National Weather Service All Hazards map, and they had taken all the blue off the map. And then slowly throughout the rest of the day, they continued to add more counties into this region and through here that was running the risk of having a frost or a freeze. And we've seen the temperatures this morning get pretty chilly right into this region. I have a few other patchy areas here, one in parts of New England, one here in the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia that has the frost advisory. But it's really going to be this next system that's coming through the west that's going to dominate the kind of weather headlines for the remainder of this week. We have winter storm watches out for parts of Wyoming, including getting right over here into parts of South Dakota as well. There's some pretty cold air on the backside of this and some very strong winds in it as well. But I'm going to show you these temperatures this morning. This is how things looked at about 6:10 this morning as I started to record, and we had temperatures down here in the 20s in the Red River Valley and these low 30s extending all the way down here into the Ohio River Valley. So it's pretty chilly setup here while the heat stayed on in parts of the southwest where we're expecting these stronger winds today. On satellite, there's not a whole lot going on. Here's the sun rising this morning. And yesterday, we just continued to watch this very deep upper level low continue to sit and spin here. And we're waiting. Much of the country's waiting for this deep low that's moving into the Pacific Northwest. It's moved into the west to eject here over the next 48 to 72 hours into the central part of the United States and then rip off a pretty sizable storm system here in the middle part of the country. Not too much has changed about our tropical feature and our forecast of that as well, which is why the current map showing you the next 7 days of total accumulated precipitation looks just like what it looked like yesterday. We have a pretty powerful upper level wave that's going to continue to push into the Pacific Northwest. We already have a wave that's moved onshore, and the two features are going to more or less work together to produce this low that's going to eject out here in parts of Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas later this week, and then move slowly across the country. Meanwhile, we have Lydia on the backside. We have the tropical low pressure that's trying to develop right here in the in the Gulf, and it's going to try to sneak up right into this area, delivering some heavier rainfall. So with all that kind of in the back of our minds, let's kind of take a look at where these two events are kind of taking shape now and what we're expecting out of them. So I'm going to go right to the upper levels. I'm going to show you a single operational run. I know it's a little different view than the one I usually show you from WeatherBell, but this is the map that I make from the European model. And what I want you to see here is the setup this week, really the next 10 days. Most of the flow in the atmosphere that's sending each of these low pressure systems across the country is dominated by this blocking ridge. And I guess we can call it blocking because it's been there for a few days. It's going to be there for at least another week, and therefore that kind of hits the criteria of at least 10 days of existence of controlling the pattern. You might call it omega, but things are moving pretty fast to the south of it, so I'm not going to do that. But this is by Thursday, and that wave we're going to be watching is this guy right here. Now it's got the right tilt to it. It's going to be able to open up quite a bit of Gulf moisture out ahead of this. And it's going to destabilize the atmosphere, and it's going to be very strongly forced in this area to produce the risk of strong to severe storms. But just look, all around this big high, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 systems kind of orbiting. And we're going to watch by Friday as that low tries to move its way slowly here over the Great Lakes. So it's a slow mover, and then through New England. We're going to watch the next deep trough coming out of the Gulf of Alaska start to impact the Pacific Northwest. Now, the reason why it's a bit slow, even though I counted off all those waves, is because of this blocking high. If this was a bit weaker or maybe out over the Atlantic, then these systems would move much, much more quickly across the country. But they're almost trying to get themselves cut off. So we end up getting this extended colder time period this weekend and early next week across the east. And the next system doesn't have a whole lot of motivation to move quickly into the United States. So it's there on Monday, but by Tuesday, Wednesday, even out to next Thursday, it's only moved to the central United States. And what that means is we're still on this week on and week off kind of setup here. Okay, let's go take a look at some of the near-term threats from this. I'm going to show you an animation of winds that are at 850 millibars. So that is approximately 1 mile above sea level. So the lows we're going to watch, here's the one that's leaving. This is the one that brought some snow into Ontario and Quebec. This is what's kept the cold air coming around, the really, kind of annoying cloud cover over this entire region. And this is the one that we're going to watch. So as we play this forward, you're going to say, well, where does this go by the time we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday morning? Well, it's over the mountains, but you can't see it because the mountains themselves are higher than a mile. So the surface pressure, and of course people in the mountains know this well, but if you're not from this area, you wouldn't know this. The surface pressure here is often below 850 millibars because of elevation. So we lose it on this map. It just kind of goes away. See, the system comes in, like where is it? Well, it's going to eject right here by the time we get into Thursday afternoon. And what I'm concerned about is that dynamically, this is going to be a system. Remember I mentioned that tilt? That's going to have just about the maximum amount of upper level divergence out of it. And what that means is we're going to rapidly lose pressure inside this column. And it's going to cause the air at the surface to come funneling it in to fill that void. That's what low pressure centers are. They're an attempt to equalize a rapid decompression in the atmosphere. And that decompression starts as we get into our cold months now. It starts in the upper levels with the jet stream. So what you're seeing here is by overnight on Thursday night, there's going to be kind of a couple of very just interesting setups here. There's going to be very cold dry air that sneaks around this side. There will be a dry line feature that'll roll right in through here. There's a warm front that's out ahead of it that's going to sit in this area. And therefore, we're going to watch for what we call this triple point, this area right in through here that has the greatest risk of producing the strong to severe storms. But overall, why I'm showing you this map is to give you two perspectives on it. One, it's going to be very windy, and we're going to show you those wind gusts in a moment. And two, it's get cut off. Look at that. I mean, it's just a nice big closed low that moves over Iowa by 7 p.m. on Friday night, and then just continues to progress all the way through Saturday night over to Lake Erie. Strong winds on Saturday. In fact, I got to spend the day at a band competition over here at the University of Illinois. I'm excited. I love it. I love watching my daughter play. But the weather is not going to be enjoyable in terms of a strong north wind across the whole of this part of the Corn Belt and some very, very cold conditions. So this is a pretty potent system, and then just dives into the east. And that's just system number one. But remember, here we are on Sunday. That system's still clearing. The next guy's coming in here next Tuesday into Wednesday, and there it is. So that's that week on, week off. We get some time behind a system in the midsection of the country to recover, continue harvest, and then we got another one coming in behind it. All right, let's now look at what the winds are going to do. This is the European model. We're going to look at maximum accumulated wind gust. So when you watch this animation, I'm just going to go play it through. We're going to take it all the way out 10 days. We're going to see both of the systems. And what we're watching for today is the stronger winds here, and stronger winds in the Four Corner states. And then as this emerges right in through here, you just see that throughout these central U.S. states, we've got wind gusts that are going to be sitting somewhere in that 35 to 60 mile an hour range. That's what we're going to be. Now that's not thunderstorm winds. This is synoptic scale winds. But you can also see the system that's coming out down here out of the Bay of Campeche. It's going to be delivering some stronger winds in the Gulf and possibly here into Florida, Georgia as well. And the system that's out here over open ocean, that's system number 1 and 2 combined, we're going to have some very, very rough seas out here in the open Pacific Ocean. All right, on the severe weather side of this is day 1. Sorry, let's shrink that up. That's today, where we're going to be watching for stronger storms. So remember, there's a frontal boundary left behind by the upper level low that's sitting here. That frontal boundary just sits right there, onto which the new low is going to jump up on and ride as it moves across the country. So tomorrow. This is tomorrow, not today. This is the 11th. We have the risk of strong to severe storms here, and also down in Florida where the system coming out of the Bay of Campeche is going to make it. And this is what we've got on day 3, which would be the 12th. So now you can see that triple point region where we have the risk of strong straight line wind damage. We're going to have the risk of hail, and there'll be the risk of isolated tornadoes. One thing I didn't bring up, and I should have done this. Let's just go to, again, one of my favorite websites, Tomer Berg, PhD student, great guy, puts together some pretty amazing graphics. I just want to show you, we've now upped that to a 20% chance of development. We have Max and Lydia, and all are going to kind of combine over the next 7 days. The first wave goes here, Max and Lydia come later, and we're going to add quite a bit of rainfall to this area. You can see all of those by just going right now to the wind field. So take a look at what's going on. By later this morning, very strong winds moving throughout the Intermountain West, especially down here in the southwest. We're already beginning to see the warmth recovery here. See that strong southerly wind coming up the front range of the Rockies? This is the last of the colder air finally moving its way east. Here is the system in the Bay of Campeche, Max, which just came on shore, and Lydia. And then here's the first of the big lows, and here's the second of the big lows that are coming across. They're all detailed out for us quite nicely here on this animation. So I want to show you some high-res models first, and we're going to pick this one up with the high-res NAM. We work our way through the day today on Tuesday. A lot of scattered showers out throughout the west, and here's the first push of moisture coming across Mexico into southern Texas. Now this is tonight, getting into tomorrow morning. Now remember I told you there was that front that's lingering right in through here. And we're going to watch tomorrow morning for showers to show up on that front in Iowa, Missouri, and western Illinois. Now these are going to be relatively widely scattered, but they are going to impact harvest efforts right in through this area. And there's a lot of folks trying to harvest a crop in here. Down south, though, look at the size of this shield of precipitation. And yes, we really need this badly in Louisiana, given how weak the flow is coming along the Mississippi. So this is much needed precipitation. It immediately drains into the river and helps get this water out. But the big system that's following it is now gathering its kind of strength right here, and it's going to emerge. Watch in this area right here as we get into the day on Thursday. So heavy rain spreads from Louisiana into Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and eventually Florida. We watch the frontal boundary sit right here. The front is here. See the kink in the isobars? The rain is on the northern side of it. So that's what happens by Wednesday evening. And then we get out here into Thursday morning. That low spreads its heavy rain through parts of Georgia, possibly into South Carolina, North Carolina, and now we're watching the deeper low emerge. So the high-res model is picking up on a lot of this out here. Sorry, let's take that back. There it is. So this is what we're going to be keeping an eye on after system down here kind of passes through. To show you that, though, let's go have a look at the high-res NAM's rainfall totals. Some of these values are pretty high. So you notice with the stalled out frontal boundary here in parts of Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois, scattered rain, but locally could pick up some places better than a ½ inch to an inch. We then see that down over the south, we could see the system delivering for parts of Louisiana, all the way to Florida and up to the southern part of North Carolina. This whole region and through here has the potential for grabbing 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. And the next system that's emerging here throughout the northwest, locally heavy here along the coast, and then throughout the mountains, really getting into Wyoming, Montana, and then emerging here by the time we get to Thursday afternoon. That's what we're going to be watching. Okay, in terms of model performance, because I've been showing you the GFS compared to the European, they're both actually performing quite high right now. This is where we currently sit. So I'm just going to give us one big centralized view of this because I think the Europeans got the timing right on this next couple of systems. So we've already seen through here into Wednesday. Let's now watch the European model stall out that frontal boundary on Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We see the heavy rains here. There's Lydia. And here's the new low that's about to emerge Thursday afternoon. Again, coming out into parts of Colorado, then Kansas, and then Nebraska. And watch on the back side of this. So see how it's going to sit right on that front? On the back side of this, we're going to watch for some snow. And I'll show you just how much the models are predicting here in just a few moments. But this is a pretty heavy rainmaker. And it's cut off and it's slow moving. Now again, I've been covering the Mississippi River. We've been covering all the issues with drought here. This is a help. But we need if we get the totals out of this we're expecting, we need this system here. We need about 5 more of these, and then we need 5 more of them right down here to completely bring that river back up to sustainable, not sustainable, but back up to levels that have no concern going forward. So we watch that system curl up over Wisconsin as the second pulse of moisture hits the southeast. So this right here is from Lydia. You watch the low now make it by Saturday all the way here. Cold air driven around the back side of that. And as that system pushes into New England, right there on Sunday, the next low comes into the Pacific Northwest. And we're going to watch that one come across the mountains too and show up somewhere here out in the middle of next week, in the central part of the United States. So that's kind of the way this setup is around that big blocking high that's lived over central Canada. Now I mentioned some snow. Let's go have a look at it. If we add up this snow right in through here, you can see that coming out of like south of Yellowstone, getting here into central Wyoming, down into Colorado, and then into the high plains of Nebraska, South Dakota, we could be picking up some locations 2 to 4 inches of snow. These models have bounced all over the place on snowfall amounts out here. So I'm going to just show us the chances of getting an inch. So now we see that there's a 50 to 80% chance of an inch here, a little bit higher farther to the north, and then much higher once we get into the mountains. In fact, the chances of getting 3 inches and 6 inches, this is going to be a good snow producer in the mountains here. So some pretty heavy snows are expected. On the liquid side of this is the chance, let's go to probability, This is the probability of getting at least an inch over the next 10 days. And now we're starting to see this whole region in through here possibly grabbing not just 1 inch, but there's going to be areas in here that pick up better than 2 inches of rainfall. And a lot of this is going to soak in pretty quickly. You've seen me show repeatedly those soil moisture numbers in through this area. So we're going to watch that really change quite a bit. Take a look down here. Very heavy rainfall coming in along the Gulf Coast as well. Possibility of not only just 2 inches, but even more than that, approaching 3 to 4 in pockets. Wettest spot's going to be the Pacific Northwest with both of these systems coming through. Highest chances here along the mountains and the, right here along the coast of Washington and Oregon. All right, by week 2, this is where we get. And the newest change is by middle of next week, so by next Thursday night, we do see this trough down here in the south a bit deeper than previously forecast. We're still flanked by 2 troughs off the coast, and that's why the National Weather Service, CPC, combined with the European and the GFS, have all gone over wetter in this area. And we're going to watch that be that next system that rolls through and potentially brings in some wetter conditions. So point to be made here. Let's blow this map up and have just a quick discussion about it. That whole week on, week off thing, right? After system number 1 comes to the northwest, you get a break. Then the system comes into the Midwest, and it slowly moves here by the end of the week. Behind that, this area gets a break. You get more harvest window that opens up. But then there's another wave that comes in, week 2, shows up down here, and then we have another go of it. So this is normal. This is normal October weather. That's kind of what we get during this time. And it's also normal to be looking at frost maps that look like this. Now, most of this was this morning, okay, but there's still plenty of colder air to be had. We might be able to get some of those colder temperatures all the way down to just north of Amarillo with the colder air that's coming behind some of this. So let's go have a look at it. That's today's lows early this morning, just as the sun was rising. As we play this forward into Wednesday, big warm up ahead of the system. Look at that. By Thursday, then by Friday, watch the colder air come in on the back side of this. This is Saturday morning's lows. That's when we could get that frost down here pretty far to the south. 40s dipping down into central Texas. This is what Sunday looks like. Again, frost risk right here on this white line. And then we get into Monday, and that's going to continue to kind of spread as the west starts to warm back up again. This is just a volatile temperature pattern. On the high temperature side of it, 90, almost 90 today in parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. But you're going to watch the temperatures really line themselves up with where that frontal boundary is here and where the warm sector is opening up to the south. That's Wednesday into Thursday. It's really well defined. See it? There's the front. And this is a pretty potent system that's going to sit and spin on this very dynamically forced system. What I mean by that is contrast. There's cold, dry air, very warm, humid air. There's a deep upper level low. It's going to suck the air out of the top of this thing, drop the pressure, and it's going to be a potent system. Very, very windy system. That's Friday. Look at the cold air coming in behind this. So we're going to go from close to 90 today, and then by Friday, we're going to struggle to get out of the 50s in this area. So prepare for a 40-degree drop in temperatures by late week. That's Saturday. Remember, the low is sitting and spinning here. Very cold air on the back side of this. Getting into Sunday, look at the warmth already coming back into the west. By Monday, which is our last day on this, we're back up here to temperatures averaging about 10 degrees above average in the west, while the east drops off that cooler weather. So here's your next 5 days. That's day 5 through 10. And here's day 10 through 15. You see, it's just on this movement, up, down, and up, down. Now, to be honest, I don't have any new long-range content to share. I watched it all day yesterday and said, is there anything I need to change over my video on Friday or video on Monday? I don't have any new ideas, so if you want the long range, just go check those out. But I do want to show you some new stuff about South America, specifically into Argentina. Because over the last month, we have watched on their drought severity index. So this is kind of a drought monitor put together by a data set called CHIRPS. We have just watched some key growing areas like in and around Buenos Aires over toward Rosario, and then getting over toward Cordoba by Santa Fe and the northern Argentina continue to show just very, very dry conditions. And I went into Cordoba just to pick a spot that's super heavy on agriculture right here. So looking in here at Cordoba, I want to show you their precipitation graph, and this goes back a year. So as we look at this, look at the deficits that have been mounting in precipitation. Here we are in spring, expecting to see better rainfall events, and right now they've kind of flatlined. So you see the turn up in the average line, that's when the spring rain should be arriving, and they've just not been having them. And you look over the next 10 days, I just kind of left the map at 10 days. There's only isolated showers in this area, maybe a bit heavier rain possible in northern Argentina, but notice a lot of that's coming in after the next week. So most of the next 7 days continue to be very dry throughout Argentina with only isolated rainfall events. We see much wetter conditions continue to be forecast for southern Brazil. We have the sporadic early start of a monsoonal rainfall event happening here. Driest regions continue to be parts of northern and eastern Brazil while we're still waiting on the full flow of the monsoon to come in like this, which it will typically do later in the month of October. So that is an important story to be following in South America, and we'll just keep our eyes on it and talk about it again tomorrow. Until then, have a good rest of your day. We'll talk soon. Thank you.